Shalom, everybody!
Translation: synchronized poop.
Uh, no, actually, that's, no, no, true, true.
Yes.
That, that was a thing I didn't know that was going to be a thing, alright?
Welcome to
Like,
the Blank Space
see,
Podcast.
we fill it in with something, whatever that, so, okay, so I was going through Reddit like I do, right? And I found this picture of a toilet, okay? It was a two-person toilet, all right?
Yeah,
And they were
you're
just
explaining this.
okay. Um, so it would have one person facing one way, the other facing the other, and I think it was arranged in such a way where both people could just kind of, have hold hands while they're going, and it's just the most awkward thing I've seen.
Oh, I just
Okay,
looked up a picture of it. Oh, okay. So that is an SNL skit. Thank God.
that is an SNL skit. Thank
Yes.
God. Oh, I thought that was like somebody's thing.
Wait, I'm finding real ones. I'm finding real ones.
Oh, stop going to the dark side of Google.
Every side of this is the dark side of Google.
What would you name the dark side of Google, actually?
Oogoog.
I'm, I'm not satisfied with that. But then again,
Actually,
I also. Oh,
is
oh.
that website still a thing? Yes, here we go.
Uh-oh.
So this may or may not be in the show notes, depending. But there's a site called Elgoog, which is a mirrored version of Google. Everything is backwards. And it's a fully working website. You can actually Google stuff on here. It's
I'm not sure how I feel about this.
it is so hard to do. Like okay, anyone listening really should do that. It's basically type into Google backwards, ELGOOG, and go to this website and try to like Google things and figure out what is going on. Because
On a good note though, this has all the things they do. This has the snake game thing. This is the Pac-Man thing, like right on it. So that's kind of nice. Those aren't
oh
backwards.
so there's like a okay, so they like collect stuff and all that. They even have Bing Mirror if you're one of those people that uses Bing.
Yep. Yeah, I never use Bing. Only people that look at porn use Bing.
Do you want to explain to the good people why?
No.
Actually, I found out at work another reason why to use
This,
Bing.
Drew, this isn't good.
I said at work, so obviously
Okay.
it's okay.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought this was going to go a different direction. Go ahead.
So I was looking up this great stuff. No, I'm kidding. um, so at work, we have to use Internet Explorer for stuff, and Internet Explorer defaults to Bing. So for a
Okay.
while, I would just use Bing because it was quicker to get to that than Google, since it already
Mm-hmm.
loaded up. I found out that Bing will pay you to use Bing.
Wait, what do you mean?
So they offer like rewards for Google for searching the web with Bing. I have not checked it in a while, but apparently they have a rewards program where you can get like Visa gift cards and Amazon gift cards and all that.
Wow. I
It's
mean,
kind of interesting. Like I did it for a while at work and I was like I could actually earn some like decent stuff here.
that sounds interesting, but I don't know what that says about Bing. Like they need to pay people to use it. Like,
I mean, there's certain ways to get people to to use your new program. Like
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. This would definitely work, but huh.
every single search engine worth a damn has something about it that it does really, really well, or does it different than the other ones. Google, of course, is the be all end all of everything. It
Mhm.
knows everything, it sees everything. Bing apparently has this rewards program where basically they say, hey, if you use it, we'll give you something extra. Then there's
But
others like DuckDuckGo, which has like internet privacy stuff, and then
mhm.
you have Wolfram Alpha, which is my favorite.
What's Wolfram Alpha?
So all aspiring college students, favorite Wolfram Alpha right now, especially the math people. If you plug a math equation in there, it will solve it for you. 100% of the time, every time, and it's always right. And it shows you the steps. It's incredible. I don't know how
I'm
they
giving
did
you a
this.
moment of silence because I was taking math this semester, and that
Oh, I'm so
I'm
sorry.
getting I'm doing this the hard way.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for your saltiness right now.
I'm
Wait.
not gonna lie. I'm a dead C.
Oh my God. They put up new ways of doing this where you can submit an image and it can. Oh, what? Living in the future, boys and girls. Living in the future. Well, tell you what. Here, save it now, because I mean, you're gonna be
I
going to school
mean,
for a little bit longer.
I'm really sad. I'm genuinely sad now. Like I was ready to go. Like I kind of want to go cry in a corner right now.
I can't stop you, but we are doing a podcast.
We are doing a podcast. So yeah, yeah, podcasting, everyone. Yeah.
I like that. That's your transition. Just
Chow Ban
yelling at the people
was
podcast.
was actually Vietnamese this week, and it was hello in Vietnamese.
It wasn't double pooping or synchronized pooping.
No, it wasn't true. What topics do we have for today, Drew?
We've got only the greatest topics for you right now.
Okay.
The best topics.
Yep.
Hands down.
All right.
Better than last week. Better than the week before. As we said
That's
before,
kind of
we're
our
getting
shtick.
better every week.
Yep.
Sort of.
Hashtag facts.
But there was something that I think both of us wanted to bring up.
Okay.
So, recently, there's been a lot of remakes of shows that, at least our generation, like me and Anthony's generation, that they've been bringing back onto television.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, Samurai Jack and Teen Titans.
This is true.
Have you been watching either of them?
Um.
We'll just say those two particular, Samurai Jack and Teen Titans.
Okay. So, for Samurai Jack, I've been trying to watch. I'm a little behind, but so far I love that how they've taken the show.
Hmm.
Right? Like they're taking this like nice gritty feel to it. It's nice serious feel to it. And so far, I kind of like what they're doing. Like, it definitely is different than how the show framed itself, you know, when it was originally on TV. But it's also on Adult Swim now, so the filters are off. So,
Hmm. Yeah, so I mean, definitely I appreciate how they're, uh, I guess, raising the maturity level of the series is the
hmm
good way of putting it.
yep.
Like I was originally going to say they're adulting the series, and it's like that's a terrible way of describing it. But raising the
hmm
maturity of it, where you could actually see not just the violence that's going on, but of course like the actual subject matter in particular.
hmm
Like we I don't think we'll go into spoilers exactly of what's going on in the series because
We'll be good again this week.
Hmm?
I said we'll be good again this week.
Yes, but certainly we will talk about like just the general feeling of it. Now, did you watch Samurai Jack a lot when it was on originally?
I did. It was like I love that show when I was growing up, and it was just, whew,
Wha-
like that's, it was definitely an awesome show, and I loved it. And it kind of made me sad when it was no longer going to be on TV. And now that it's finally coming back on TV, whew, I'm kind of happy about that. I actually binged watched for like a week to get caught up on all the episodes
Hmm.
for the at least on the old series, so I can be like, okay, so what's this series going to be like? And it made me kind of realize that that the old Samurai Jack. Well, I mean, that was really good for when I watched it as a kid, right? But it was on rewatching it now that now it's not as amazing as I remember it.
Hmm. How do you mean?
Just that. Hmm, what's a good way to put it?
Do you feel
It
like
feels slow now that
okay?
I'm watching it now, right? It just but that's a good thing at certain parts, right? Because like that slowness is kind of what makes it nice, right? Like it kind of has like its own sort of pace. It's not like trying to rush through things, and you could actually go through an entire episode and not many things will be done, right? But that's also okay. I don't know. I don't really know how to describe it. Like I'm not sure if it's that my tastes have just kind of like moved a little bit, or that I was just more readily able to accept what it was back then. I don't know. I'm losing my words.
Well, I certainly think your tastes have changed. The series has
Hmm.
been off the air for 10 years at this point.
Yeah.
And
10
certainly,
years, really?
it's. I
Okay.
mean, if it hasn't been 10 years, it's been close to that.
Okay.
But certainly, the show has changed dramatically since then, um, in tone and also production of it.
Hmm.
Obviously, since they're on a network that is. They're on a network that allows you to have kind of time to do your show and wants you to develop a more
Its
ground.
own kind
Yeah,
of route.
yeah, its own feel and its own storyline. They're certainly probably pushing and saying like, you guys do what you want to do. You guys create it how you want to create it, because God
Hmm.
knows you guys were doing good work back then. And I feel like with not less restriction, but like certainly um, less constraints,
Hmm.
it certainly will give you more wiggle room to do more good material with the series. Um, myself,
You know
I
what?
never.
Oh, I was just gonna say because you know what? I kind of realized this. The last episode, right, is not a last episode. In damn,
Mm-hmm.
did they know?
It's a cliffhanger. I well, here's the thing. I definitely don't think anyone writes a series with each season expecting to be canceled.
That's fair. That's fair.
There are some shows that write it as an ending. Like if they don't think they're going to get another season, sometimes they'll write an ending. But they never write the show as if like, oh man, we're getting canceled. We might as well just like do it that way. A good show will write how they want to write.
You're right. You're right. And they did it in the Samurai Jack fashion of we don't really know when this journey's gonna end, and
Yeah, exactly.
we just kind of stop where we stop.
It certainly seems like a story though that has an ending, that has a definite end to it. But it is certainly one of those shows that you're looking at it like
Yeah.
it's wide open for what's the word? It's wide open for material. Not even starting again, material. Like they could write a bunch of different
Starting again.
episodes all over the place
Hmm.
without having to worry of like, oh, this could possibly be like out of canon. It's like, no, I mean the universe is wide open for Samurai Jack. But I I don't know. I feel like this
Hmm.
might be getting a little bit too specific, but I feel like at least the comeback of Samurai Jack has been good, even though I'm not the biggest fan of it at the moment. I
Is there any specific reason why, or is that too much in the spoiler territory?
I feel like I might get to too much specifics, but also
Well, is it like a theme thing, or do you not like that they went for this more serious and gritty style with
no,
things,
no,
or?
no, no, no. I like that they went for a more serious style because I never watched the original series very in depth. It had a weird showing schedule where I didn't. It wasn't easy to sit down and watch episodes in order. Like when they
Mm-hmm.
were on reruns, they just aired whatever. They just were like, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
here's episode season 2, episode 9, and here's episode 1, season 1, episode 1, and then here's
Mm-hmm.
season 3, episode 2." It's like I don't know what's going on. There's suddenly a Scotsman. What? I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
But um, I feel like it'd be getting into too many specifics to just talk about what I don't think works entirely well with the reboot. But it's certainly not bad. It's more nitpicks than anything for me.
Mm-hmm.
I still recommend it to people because it's still really good TV. It's just I don't see it as a great series yet. I see it as
Okay.
still trying to get its feet.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's a fair thing to say because like if you came into this out of nothing, I mean, you'd be like, well, this is kind of cool, but it's yet to like to fully grasp its like own feeling. I guess that's kind of what you're trying to say.
It it hasn't found its feet in the sense of like where it's going, what it's trying to do yet.
All right.
Like I guess one criticism of the show right now is it feels a little slow and it doesn't quite know where it's going.
Mm-hmm.
I won't get into why, but it feels like right now we're just kind of following Jack at the moment. But obviously,
I mean, that's always been like the show, though. That's the thing, right? Like the show has always been just following Jack, and it could be something as interesting as fighting a big monster, or literally just kind of walking through some ruins. And the show can, at least the old series, could literally have like a full packed episode, or of just this one narrative, or it could have like a breakup of like three little snippets of something happening to Jack, or it could be like this build up to something for this entire episode, or it could literally just be an episode that's not really about much. It's just kind of this calm kind of thing, right? And that's
yeah,
the thing. The show could and was can set like any sort of mood, or like go into like any sort of feel, and not necessarily have the same feel from before. And I felt that was always interesting about the show. It's also
yeah.
kind of a bit of its weakness though as well,
I,
because like
I
if you're not really into that, like if you want like a consistent like forward moving story, you're probably not going to like the original series,
yeah.
because it's oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say like it. I see it as a bit of a weakness. And now, obviously, I can't speak to the original series because I haven't seen all of it or even a
Mm-hmm.
majority of it. But I I see it more as everything that happens in the show should be contributing towards the goal
Mm-hmm.
eventually. And it's not wrong to have a storyline where a character is just kind of aimlessly wandering and doing things, but ultimately it should be contributing to something. It should be
Mm-hmm.
working towards something, and maybe they're doing that. Honestly, we're only what 4 episodes into the new season.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
we might be getting to something, but at least in the first few episodes, I'm having trouble with it,
Okay. I mean,
and
that's fair.
we'll see where it goes, and that's ultimately where I'll stand. Is that I definitely recommend it to people. It's good TV, but at the same time, it's something that I'm seeing a few issues with early on that may go away. That's all.
I gotcha. I
Now,
gotcha.
now there's another remake that I think is less controversial if I say I'm not a fan of the Teen Titans remake.
You know what's so odd about that though? Is
Hmm?
that like I hate it, you hate it, but like a lot of people that aren't our age seem to love it.
It's it's certainly something. It's certainly because that the original series isn't around anymore. We don't
That's for
like it
sure.
because it is something that it is a series that goes from what the original show was, which was a very well character driven story,
Hmm.
a very well made character driven story about these heroes, into just a flat comedy about all of it. And that's not
Hmm.
necessarily a bad thing, but it's very lazy humor. It's very childlike humor, where it's just simply like, well, we can make a joke about how do robots fart. And it's like, oh, okay, that's easy. We can do that.
Hmm.
It it feels like just something that is made with children in mind, while the original series was like the Avatar: The Last Airbender, where anyone
Hmm.
could enjoy it because it had something for everyone.
It did. It did. It was something that like you could literally watch it. I'd say I'd like to think from like any age and like have like a solid like liking of it, right? Because it did
Yeah,
stuff for like all the age groups kind of deal. Like it's something that was well written. It's something that was still funny
yeah,
and fun, and but also could be like a little sad, and could be like it brought like so many good things out of it, right? And you know what I wonder? If if the fact that the original series, didn't exist, I feel like that this series would not be as hated.
It wouldn't be, but it certainly wouldn't have fans. I'll say that. Where
Hmm.
the reason people started watching it is because of the name Teen Titans. And
Hmm.
then the people who stayed for the humor, while the people who left because of the old series. If the old series wasn't there, I really don't know how much traction this would gain.
I got you. I got you.
It, it's certainly one of those things I feel like it's a shame they're doing it as they are, but I can't fault them for it because obviously it's popular.
Yeah.
And as much trash as I talked it, I will respect the series
Okay.
entirely for one reason.
And why is that good, sir?
They did a storyline that circulated online. In the show notes or the equivalent of, we'll put it down there. There's a clip of one episode in particular where they just shatter the fourth wall and just have a villain show up on their TV in their headquarters and threaten them to do better in the series or else they'll get canceled again. They legitimately bring up the old series and say, "Look what I did to your previous selves. I'll do that again if you guys don't get better." It is
I mean, that
such
is
a
pretty
great
ballsy.
it is such a great moment of meta within the series that I will respect it to the end of days because that takes a lot to do. That takes a lot to be like, man, you are acknowledging that people don't like your series, and you are acknowledging a much better series, but you were doing it in a legitimately funny way.
Hmm.
You were legitimately poking fun at the fans and the series in general, saying, you guys aren't doing great. You might want to get better.
Hmm.
And then the rest of the series makes fun of things that are wrong with the series. Like, apparently the animation budget's really bad, where like it's made in like Flash or something, where like bodies mess up sometimes. It's really funny. I'll link you to it, but it's it's something I can respect with it. It told one joke really well, and I can give it some credit for that.
That's fair.
Yeah,
That's fair. I mean, I'm still not going to respect it, but
yeah. Don't worry, I'm in a very small, tiny minority in this. I don't feel
I
like
mean,
I'm getting a lot of people
I
on that
definitely
train.
understand what you're saying to that, but
Mm-hmm.
like, I, I feel like how a lot of people would feel is that they feel like because this show exists, that there won't be a proper sequel to the
Yeah,
original, and I mean, I kind of think that's true, to be honest.
yeah. I well, here's the thing. I don't think we will never see a proper Teen Titans remake. But
Hmm.
while this animated comedy series is going, we won't see it. We won't see a serious reimagining of it now.
Hmm.
But that doesn't mean we'll never see one. And honestly, with the creation of Samurai Jack being brought back, I certainly think there's room for networks to see, oh, well, people do want like these shows to come back with the same tones that they had.
Hmm.
So I don't think it's impossible to say like it'll never happen. I mean, one more thing I wanted to bring up was Invader Zim, which that's incredible that's coming back. That's
It
insane that that's
is.
coming back
That
because
I didn't even know.
oh, you didn't hear about that? There
No.
there was only a couple of teasers released, but the that is a show that I if you had asked me a year ago what shows will eventually get come back to being on TV, what cartoons in particular from my youth,
Hmm.
number one would be Butt Ugly Martians. but two, but two would be Invader Zim. Because have you ever heard the creator of that show talk about how he was treated by Nickelodeon?
No, actually, I didn't hear anything about that.
He's not a fan. He is not a fan of how that went down.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Basically, they did him dirty. They didn't do him any favors. But that if that is able to come back to TV, and it's sounding like it's the same cast, the same crew, I feel like we could probably get a serious remake of Teen Titans.
I see what you're saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
What network is bringing it back?
Invader Zim.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's Nickelodeon, but let me make sure on that before I
because if it's Adult
before I.
Swim, I don't want to see it.
What? Why?
Okay, so for me, Invader Zim was something that was already
Uh,
gross and
Nickelodeon.
like
Nickelodeon
a
is bringing it
little, a
back.
little, a little much, on the gross department for me. And if
Okay.
Adult Swim picked that up,
All
I,
right, I can
I
see your
might,
point a little bit.
okay, I would, my eyes would burn.
I can see your point a little bit, but
'Cause I actually really don't like Invader Zim.
really,
Yeah.
you never were a fan?
Well, okay, see, like, I like the idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that it exists, but when I actually sit down and watch an episode, I'm genuinely disgusted by it.
Really,
Yes.
man.
Like, for me, like, it just goes too gross out, you know, for, like, its humor and what it does. Like, I love, like, the ideas it puts out there, but it's just, like, it's too gross out for me to sit down and enjoy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I guess I can see you. It's been a while since I watched it, so I mean, I might not remember a lot of what you're remembering, but I do remember specific parts that were like, this is like really dingy people. Like, these are
Mm.
really kind of gross people in this series. So I don't know. I'll have to see. I'll be interested to see what it's like, and I might even go back and watch some of the series if the when it gets closer to the movie or show coming back out.
I recommend you do so because my memories of that show are not fond. Like I always loved the idea. Like the only reason I even sat through an episode is because like I thought it was kind of cool what they were doing. But dear God, it just went so gross sometimes that I couldn't handle it.
I get you. I get you. I can't say I relate, but I certainly
I'm
get you.
looking through images and I see the boil.
Oh,
That was.
I remember the boil. Well, tell you what, let's put a pin in this. We'll come back to
No, don't
Invader
put a
Zim.
pin in it. It'll
Oh,
burst.
oh God, no. Okay, I apologize. Mistakes were made. Um,
Uh,
let's go.
I got a question for you, Drew.
All right.
If you have bring home a chicken Caesar wrap, right? How do you eat that again?
I
Because like it was cold at the beginning, right? And now what do you do? Like do you just make sure it was like really cold again? Like do you just stick it in a fridge and like be like that's okay to eat tomorrow or like how do you feel that's done?
I get what you're asking now. For like almost half of what you were saying, I was like, "What are you talking about right now?" I'm like, "I eat it with my mouth. What else do I eat it with?"
Because like
Well, I mean,
pizza I don't have any issue eating cold because college student and
I like that. I like legitimately that as a reason now for to do things. It's like, well, I'm a poor college kid. That's what we do, right?
But like I'm not sure if a chicken Caesar wrap is okay to do that with. Like should I throw it in the microwave or I mean like I've done that once and like I did not like that result.
Well, I think your answer is to keep it cold. I mean, it's a bunch of cold ingredients, really. It's not supposed to be hot, as far as I
Hmm.
know, unless you're getting a weird one.
That's true.
Are you planning on getting one, or do you have one at the
No, I,
moment?
I actually do have one. I may have. been maybe enjoying this. Like, I'm not sure if I'm going to be sick tomorrow, to be honest. I'm kind of wondering if I should be expecting bad things.
It's not a terrible thing to eat it warm,
Oh,
but it's probably better to eat it
okay.
to
I
eat it.
trust you.
Okay, so I've got a I've got an interesting topic for you on a similar topic of gross things.
Okay,
Um,
my body is ready.
are you sure?
No,
Is
let's go.
100% of your body ready?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Okay, I need a percentage.
74%.
I don't know if you're ready,
I mean,
but we're gonna go anyway.
I'd pass a math test. I
C's
would.
get degrees.
They do. I'd probably get a B if I had that search engine though.
Listen, I'm not a fan of your salt the earth territory right now. But I want to talk about SCP containment breach.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
honestly, SCP in general, more
Hmm.
or less.
It is a great thing.
It's a great universe.
It
And do
is.
you want to describe what SCP is?
Okay, so SCP, containment breach, is basically this. It's basically meant to be our world, right? It's a collection of anomalous like creatures, persons, things that do either good things, bad things, mostly bad things, um, indifferent things that are just oddities in the world. And there's this organization that keeps them under lock and key, or tries to keep them under lock and key, and hidden from the regular world. You know.
Yeah, they're kind of like a police force or like an investigative bureau of people who just collect up these oddities of the world. And that's how I describe them, as oddities, because not all of them are dangerous. They're just really odd things in the world. Now, of course,
Hmm.
some of them are dangerous, some that are very dangerous, but
Hmm.
it's not all killer murderers.
Hmm. Yeah,
Uh,
like for instance, one of my favorite ones, right, is by the way, all SCPs are counted as case files. So like the one I'm going to tell you about is SCP-507, which is basically this guy who teleports for no reason. He just teleports in and out of like reality or something like that, or into another dimension, or to another world, or something like that, right? And he ends up in all these odd situations. Like sometimes he'll be in parallel universes of a different, branch of, the SCP organization, right? Or sometimes he'll be like in a dark room with something breathing over him, and he doesn't know what it is, and he just kind of cries until he teleports back to his room inside the facility.
yeah, he can't really control it. He just kind of goes places and has to deal with it.
And that's just kind of his anomalous thing. That's what happens to him,
Yeah, and you
right?
wouldn't describe him as a particularly dangerous guy.
No, he's not even dangerous, and he has no like bad intentions or anything like that. It's just literally he cannot control this. This happens to him, and this facility, looks after him because some bad stuff could happen to him, or
Yeah, without their oversight, at least he would just be doing whatever. And with them there, maybe they can help him in some way, or honestly just learn from him. I mean, it seems more like the idea would be to just learn from him, like
mm-hmm.
study him, rather than
Because
be like, yeah, let's definitely help this guy. It's like, we could learn some sciencey stuff.
mm-hmm.
Actually, so that's the thing. You talk about like SCPs as somewhat dangerous, but like some of my favorite ones are ones that are not even remotely dangerous.
Okay,
So, for example, one of my favorites is SCP underscore J.
okay,
Does this ring a bell for you?
it does a little bit.
Okay. So I'm just gonna read the case file, word for word, for you right now. Okay.
Okay,
All right. Item number SCP underscore J. Object class blank. Special containment procedures. In a box in my office. Description: it's a rock that makes you procrastinate. Addendum: probably emetic or something. Final note: I'll finish writing this up later.
I
That
mean,
is just a really creative like idea for just a weird oddity in the world that when this rock is around you or you're holding it, you just procrastinate. You just
mhm.
don't want to do anything.
Yeah, I think that also like very clearly said like what this SCP stuff is, right? Like all of these things are written up as like case files and like all that kind of thing. And there's actually a website called the SCP Wiki, right? Where you can basically find all these creatures and like it's a huge database that all sorts of different authors like add to, right?
Mm-hmm.
This isn't just like one person's creation. This is like an entire community built up around creating like SCPs and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's taken very seriously, where it's very much a like this is a real thing kind of thing. It's role played
Mm-hmm.
more or less,
Yeah.
where people like pretend it's all real, but there's varying degrees of like creations. Like obviously, I think anyone can come on here and just write an entry. Um,
Mm-hmm.
for
But yeah,
example,
like you get at. Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, for example, like I'm sure there's one out there that's like, oh man, there's this goblin that hangs out under a bridge, and he's a really cool
Oh no,
dude.
there's the poop ghost. So.
Poop, God. But then there's really well written ones and super creative ones that end up being really popular.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest one, of course, is SCP. What's his name? 173. Yeah,
Yep.
173, which is a statue that only moves when you blink. It is terrifying.
If as long as one person is looking at it, it won't move. But if nobody's looking at it, it will move somewhere else.
Yeah,
Was
it
it
just
tele?
it can move anywhere.
Yeah, and it is known to kill things.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's
yeah,
not usually very happy.
it is not a happy thing, and it's just a concrete statue that oozes reddish liquid, right?
Brownish, blackish. It doesn't really ooze liquid. It just has stains on it.
Oh, okay. But yeah,
It's
like you get stuff like that. Like you get every this thing has this site has everything from the rock that you mentioned to like a possibly world-ending lizard that tries and that the agency has to try every means possible to try and keep contained.
not even
Like,
contained. They try and kill it because I don't know if it's changed since then, but last time I read it, it was along the lines of this is an unkillable creature. Every time we kill it, it just comes out of commission for a day, a week, a month, whatever, and then comes back.
mm-hmm,
Like I think the picture you see on that specific entry is just a skeleton of a lizard,
mm-hmm,
and it says like object in hibernation for X amount of days. It's like, oh, this thing's just gonna come back. Like they have no they're not pretending like, oh man, this is dead. It's like, no, this thing's gonna come back. This is what it looks like when it's dead for a
mm-hmm,
moment, and it's really interesting. It's really well written kind of horror, or at least kind of a mystery.
mm-hmm. Or like you get other things that are like the slime thing, right? I forget which number it was, but it's like basically it's a gelatinous thing of slime that acts like a dog. Or like you can find like things like a little tornado, like Dust Devil, right? That's somehow sentient and kind of acts like a dog, right? Like those are just two other examples of what you can find on here. I personally think it's a great read and something that you can easily rabbit hole for like hours.
Absolutely, and the great thing about it is there's actually a game that someone created based off of this,
Mm-hmm.
actually called SCP Containment Breach.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would recommend almost everyone playing that game
I
because
agree.
that game is so well made for the tiny, tiny niche community that it's in.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way that you watch, let's say you ever go to watch a let's play of it on YouTube. Most of the time, people play it for 20 minutes and get killed, but in the first 10 minutes, very, very, very quickly by the most famous SCP, the statue-looking thing.
Hmm.
But the game has so many of the SCPs in there, and apparently it's still in development. Like they're still making so many of these SCPs into the game.
Hmm.
Like there's another one where there's this one called the Old Man, where he's basically looks like a rotting corpse, and every once in a while when he gets out of his cell, anyone he touches he doesn't kill. He just teleports to a nightmare dimension for an undetermined amount of time.
Hmm.
It's insane, and this is in the game.
Hmm.
But no one ever really gets to it because they play this first part and they're like, "Oh, that's really scary. Haha. All right, that's fun." But no, there's so much else in there. Um, it's a really interesting universe. I would recommend as well, like just spending some time going over the website and just being like, "What is in here?" At least going
Hmm.
over the top listed ones.
That's
Um,
for sure.
I've got one more favorite. If you do too, do you have one?
No, you go ahead. I listed a few already, so
All right.
go ahead.
So my absolute favorite, an actually well written, scary kind of SCP, one that really got me like when I first found this community, was SCP-895. Now 895 is essentially a coffin they keep in a basement.
Oh yeah, this one.
And the idea behind it is that it basically makes people hallucinate and go mad the longer they look at it. And it's not like oh, it's trapped in a room for hours kind of thing. It's just simply like you look at it for a couple of seconds, you already start to see things. There's a well-written entry on there about a like a security team that goes down to kind of see what's going on with it because the security camera seeing the coffin went down or something like that. And it's really, really well written, but somebody went even further than that and included included security cam footage of the coffin on the page.
Hmm.
And it's just a picture of a coffin and two hallways, and every once in a while the lights dim, and when they come back, something's changed, and it's
Hmm.
really creepy, and I'm a big fan.
Hmm. Because it's the fun thing about it is right is that if you're in person and you're looking at this thing, there's nothing there. It's just the coffin itself. But if you're looking through it through like a video feed or any other thing like that, right? Then that's when the stuff starts to get kind of weird.
Oh no no no! If you're real in person in front of it, you will see it because the security team that goes to see it ends up all dead because of these hallucinations. I don't.
How do
I
you
actually have to reread it to find out how they died, but more or less, it's just. It sounds like just
From what
things
I
are things.
remember, it was actually the not the security team themselves, right? It was the guys that were on the video side of things that died. The security
Uh,
team that went in person was okay, not but the guys that were like doing the video feed with them, right, in command. Those are the ones that got killed.
no, no, I'm rereading. It definitely was the security team
Was it?
that was looking at it. Yeah, it. Actually, you might be right.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
I'm
might be
reading
right
it
on that
right
one.
now.
Yeah, it's certainly. Yeah, okay, that's what it is. I see what you mean.
Hmm.
All right. Yeah, it certainly is one of those things that it's really creepy and really well written, but
Hmm.
I.
And it's short too. It didn't have to do like this huge long thing. It's like two, three paragraphs, right? And they oh wait no, this is like one, two, like five paragraphs, like an essay worth, right? And
It's relatively short.
yeah, and like they can fit like such interesting stories in just such a short amount of words, and it's just kind of nice, right?
Hmm.
And it's just all part of this huge overarching universe. I love it.
It's good. It's good. I really enjoy it.
Yep. Hey guy,
Eh?
Hey, you.
Eh?
You know what we're going to talk about next?
What's that?
We're going to talk about some YouTube stuff.
Oh boy, everyone's favorite.
Everybody's favorite. Your moms, your dads, your kid, the kid down the street.
Oh man, I can't wait for Easter to come around, get the family together, and just start talking about YouTube.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
I'm actually not
Yeah,
sure what would happen if I just started talking about YouTube at the dinner table with my family.
I'm not sure what would happen with mine either. Also, yeah, Easter's this week, isn't it? Huh.
Yes. But anyway, so
Yeah.
what in particular has been going on with YouTube lately?
So it's kind of seems like there is this sort of war, if you will, against digital media, specifically YouTube, from more, I guess, traditional media sources. Right? Did I word that right?
It sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of seems like whenever uh, a journalist that's in more traditional media gets the chance, they try and slam specifically YouTube.
Well. All right, hold on. You're showing your bias way too early. You're showing generally how you feel about it really quickly.
I'm
Um.
sorry, Dad.
So so tell you what. Here, I'll give you the facts of what's been happening lately.
Okay.
Um. So recently, there's been a big controversy in the YouTube space that traditional media sources like the Wall Street Journal and a couple other news networks have picked up on writing about controversial topics on YouTube. Like, for example, a month or two back, it was that PewDiePie, one of the biggest YouTubers on the platform, was a Nazi. That he
Mm-hmm.
was a Nazi sympathizer. And they showed video clips of him dressed up in outfit and saying really, really terrible things and all that. And it was relatively quickly debunked to show that, like, a lot of the clips they used were completely out of context. They were basically from videos either making fun of something or saying something incredibly terrible for a reaction, more or less, I guess is the
Mm-hmm.
best way you can put it.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
it was never said with hate. It was never said with like, "Oh, I really do want death to all Jews," which was something that showed up fairly frequently in these articles.
I mean, it definitely wasn't tasteful, like that's for sure.
Yeah,
But
it
like
wasn't
it
tasteful.
wasn't something that was like meant to be hurtful, or it was kind of making a point of like, wow, these guys will literally say anything, kind of deal. I mean, these were also like two Indian dudes that were just. He was basically there were like services that would like be paid to do say anything, right?
Hmm.
And there's basically two Indian guys that he got to say like this kind of stuff. I mean, they barely spoke English, so they were just like, "Hey, we'll do this," kind of thing. So,
Hmm.
in all truth, it was something that was really poorly conceived, right?
Yeah, it was something that was a really poor, like a really terrible joke that was very easily taken out of context
Yeah.
to kind of show like, oh man, this guy's really terrible. But
Hmm.
that wasn't the actual end of it. Quickly, a lot of people debunked it and said like, this is just like you guys taking something out of context. This is really terrible. And of course, there was a lot of repercussions from it, especially on PewDiePie's side. But um, not too long ago now, like within the last few weeks, the Wall Street Journal again has put YouTube under fire,
Hmm.
showing that there were ads playing before very extremist videos, like an ISIS recruiting video. There was a video that had racist language in it, and especially in the title. And there was a lot of articles put up showing that, hey, YouTube is advertising in front of these videos.
Hmm.
Um, Now, I know this was happening last week for the podcast, but the story was still developing then, and a lot's
Hmm.
come out since then.
I mean, like, there was even a case of where they were saying that YouTube was sponsoring, somebody helping to attack, her police officers and such, right?
Right. He was showing off that there was this Kevlar vest, or I think it was Kevlar or a similar material,
Yeah, it was supposed to be
and
a
he was
stab-proof vest, is what it was supposed to be.
yeah, stab-proof vest, and he was showing that it in fact was not stab-proof. It was false advertising towards it because there were areas that you could easily stab through.
Hmm.
Um, and he became under fire, and they were saying Google is sponsoring police like not police brutality, police assaults or anything like that. They're saying
Hmm.
like, oh, Google wants you to know how to kill police officers, and it's like that's taking this way out of context. That's
Yeah,
taking it way out of left field.
and it's not necessarily that the fact that that they're that they're trying to like what's a good word for it, Drew? Trying to go after YouTube, right? It's just that if they actually had like concrete stuff, that's
Mm-hmm.
fine, right? But they keep trying to jump at things before like they can even get them properly researched or like well, this is more of like a problem of what news has done lately in general, though. Like get the story out first, and then let's fix it later on, and don't really fix it, kind of deal, you know?
Yeah, and I'll agree with that to a point. That certainly news these days seems to, at least some news certainly seems to jump at the first chance of a story rather than researching it because they're afraid that they won't be able the ones to break it. They'll just be the ones to like follow up on it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and certainly with this story, it feels like they jumped the gun way too early, or at least some editor didn't stop them. Like some editor
Mm-hmm.
didn't come along and say, "Hey, you guys, this seems to be like really cherry picked or anything like that. Maybe you should go back to the drawing board with this or anything like that."
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And it's especially odd when you consider this specific journalist's history because he did the exact type of thing before, with just showing how easily he could get knives on airplanes, right?
mhm.
And now there's this other guy who's just showing how faulty the vests that police officers are being supplied with are, and he's basically railing against somebody that did what he did before. So it's just like this. There's a little bit of hypocrisy here.
Yeah, and from what I've seen, it seems like he's a really young journalist. And here's where my opinion might be a little bit different than the vast majority of people.
Okay.
There's been a big bandwagon right now of people basically saying like, well, the Wall Street Journal is promoting the death of YouTube or saying that YouTube is terrible, but I more or less put it directly on the reporters themselves.
Okay.
I don't like putting all of this on one big entity. Now, mind you,
You know
the Wall
what?
Street
This
Journal and these
is
other news networks are at fault. They need an editor or some kind of person to tell them when to stop or when's a good story and what's not. But these reporters came up with the story and they're the ones primarily behind it.
hmm
So I I certainly think of it more as this is more at the feet of the people who wrote it rather than the newspaper itself.
I kind of disagree with you though.
Really.
Yeah, I feel like what is a reporting site if not the sum works of its reporters, right? I mean, like that's somebody that you still decide to like, hey, this is somebody that we're going to back. This is somebody whose stuff we want out there, and we're not going to even bother with a rescindment or saying, hey, we were wrong about this or anything along those lines. I mean, they just don't do that usually. I mean,
You'd be surprised at how much ends up in like an editorial section of like retractments. Now, I haven't seen anything for these kind of articles, obviously,
well, that's
and
that's specifically what I mean. They're usually pretty good about like rescinding things they are wrong about.
yes.
But this specifically, they don't seem to be though.
Now I'm still going to disagree with you though.
Okay.
I certainly think that yes, like a newspaper or a news website or anything similar in that news media is the sum of its parts. So the website is made up by everyone on it.
Hmm.
But when you have an opinion or a story that you don't agree with or turns out to be incorrect, I would put that more towards the person who did it rather than the person who the entirety of the site. So let's take the election for example. During the election, a lot of newspapers ran articles written by people who were pro Hillary, pro Trump, pro Bernie, pro whatever. Lots of people wrote articles about these candidates, and I would never say that the entire newspaper is terrible because I didn't agree with the piece written about Trump or anything like that. I would say more along the lines of the writer himself, him or herself, certainly is at fault there. And I don't think there's much difference between that and what's going on here.
I actually disagree with you again, to be honest. Like, I feel like, so here's the thing, right? On principle, I feel like you're right. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but it is also a newspaper or whatever media we're talking about's job to make sure what they put out there is of decent quality, right?
Yes.
Okay, and who they choose to have the power to put out things on their behalf matters, right? If they have somebody that's coming out as like a for the just take the election for example. They say like they have a pro Hillary person, right? Well, they should also come up with a pro Trump person too, and
Mm-hmm.
write about that. But if they only feature the person that's of the pro Hillary or the pro Trump, I mean that's clearly showing where they lie.
Oh yeah, of course. And obviously there's a difference between saying like we should only have writers who agree with us and saying we should have a diverse group of people writing about topics.
Because that's kind of how I feel about things, right? Is that if they're going to have somebody that's going to put out an opinion about this, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they then don't come up with somebody that's going to be, more on the other side of the equation, you're going to be thinking, well, they just must be wholly against this, That's how it comes across. Because if
Yes.
they, as an organization, are not taking steps to show, to balance things out, then you're going to think that they're kind of against, the whole YouTube, new media kind of thing.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I'm agreeing. Okay, well here's I think the distinction between this and that.
Okay.
I completely agree for opinion pieces that as long as they are not insane opinions. Like obviously, if somebody is brought on to write about a plane crash that happened, or like let's say if somebody's brought on to write about, let's say, well, yeah, no, I'd just say opinion pieces because the only examples I can think of are facts, where it's like a
Mm.
plane crash happens, and then we bring on someone to argue the plane crash didn't happen. That doesn't make any
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
But
clear,
opinion
clear.
pieces, obviously, like if you have a case where like you need to write about Trump's new plan about something, you want to have a guy who might be able to defend it and a guy who might be able to not defend it. And that is an opinion piece about it. And then maybe you could even have a third person that just writes the facts about it. But
Yeah, or like it's the
with
difference between just like saying, "Hey, we're completely against these kind of things," and then just not trying to back up the other side whatsoever, just throwing it completely under the bus.
yeah, but the argument I would make is that they're writing this YouTube article as fact. They're
Okay?
writing it as we believe that YouTube is not even believe. We have proof that YouTube is doing this. And we don't and we see that as a terrible thing.
You know what? I feel like I
And
should distinguish that their YouTube actually does actually have a problem with actually having bad videos up there, right? So
yes.
there genuinely is a problem with that. Okay, I'm gonna preface that because I don't want people to think that we're just kind of blindly defending YouTube here.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely have issues with monetizing the wrong content and all that kind of stuff, right? Uh, but the huge deal here is that the press seems to be relentless, even while they are in the process of fixing this said problem of finding as many things wrong as possible, which I don't think is wrong of them to do. It's more along the fact that they're not properly checking, if that's actually the complete right story.
Hmm.
Do you think I summed that up correct?
Generally, I mean, obviously, then the also side of it comes in, the money side of it comes in as well, because
Mm-hmm.
YouTube is advertising on all of this, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not just that videos sharing a really controversial opinion are all there, or a really extremist opinion. It's more that they are advertising on that,
Mm-hmm.
because technically, YouTube has a freedom of speech kind of thing about it, where you could post really whatever you want within guidelines, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And there's certainly stuff outside the guidelines, but then there's also stuff that rides the guidelines that I think is the bigger issue. Is like YouTube is monetizing these kind of videos,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know. It's
It's kind of an odd situation.
yeah, and I mean, here's my take of the whole situation.
Okay.
I think, I mean, I've said it already, but I think the writer was in the wrong for this, to write basically a flame piece on this on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying this is what's wrong with YouTube. Look at all this. I can't believe they're doing this. Yada yada yada. When I think he could have gotten the same traction out of it writing an article about the problems YouTube has.
Mm-hmm.
So something like what videos are allowed on the service, or more what gets monetized and what doesn't, um, what opinions are on there, that kind of thing. Like talking more
Mm-hmm.
about the problems it has, rather it's really, I mean,
Essentially, instead of just doing a flame piece, he should have done an actual, work of journalism.
I mean, savage, but yes, it it
He
really
should
comes
have
down to
actually just looked up, done his homework and been like, okay, let's do like a full story on this instead of just doing like something that he did.
yeah, it's really the perspective he comes from on it. He came
Mm-hmm.
at it from a very attack dog kind of way, where he said like, "This is what's wrong with YouTube, and YouTube should be ashamed of themselves, and why are advertisers on here?" Instead of coming at it from a very, I guess, I don't want to say
Unbiased.
not even unbiased, but simply just like more neutral position. Instead of being on the full offense, he should have just been like, I don't think YouTube is doing a great job with this, so I'm going to write about what they're doing wrong
Mm-hmm.
rather than setting off fireworks about it.
I got you. I got you. Yeah.
And and I mean, I don't even know if that's fully true, because obviously he didn't get the facts right sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
He made claims without being entirely right. But at least I feel like this wouldn't have been as big of a blow up if he had written it in a more neutral way. But who knows? That might have been actually what he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
That may have been the perspective he wanted from it, because what you had mentioned at the top of this topic was that he was doing this to kind of pull sponsors and to kind of make this huge fire kind of under YouTube and all that. It it's it's interesting to see happen, actually, because I didn't actually know if this would happen.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of hearing this from the start, it's kind of changed a lot on YouTube. Like, for example, the the advertiser side of it, they're really trying to push to bring advertisers back because a lot of major brands have dropped from the platform itself.
Mm-hmm.
They've kind of upped the appeal system, so you can kind of have have a better grasp on what actually is getting pulled and what isn't from the platform to kind of clean it up a little bit.
I mean, I am glad that YouTube is getting flack, just because it keeps them in check, right? So like, I don't feel like that they're not deserving of this at all because they surely are, right? I just want the criticism, to be justified, not picking apart, It's like when you complain about Trump, right? Complain about the real things, because he has issues. YouTube has issues. Let's stick to the real problems, not the minor stuff. You know what I mean? Or the stuff that isn't really there.
Yeah, I guess that's ultimately both of our own points is that the big deal with it isn't that he brought up problems with YouTube. It is that he brought up false problems with YouTube to kind of get this conversation started.
And cause the guy to actually lose a bit of money and get content strikes against his account. And he, as a journalist, should have higher standards.
Yeah, he did it in a way that hurt people more than he had to.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was a I don't want to say a right way to go about this, but there was a better way to go about it.
Mm-hmm.
If that was his intention to bring up problems on YouTube. But at the same time, this might just be old media attacking new media.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't want that to be the case, but it kind of seems like it is.
Yeah, it. I mean, there's been a history for this. This isn't unprecedented.
Yeah.
Radio attacked TV when that was happening. TV has attacked the internet when the internet was very young, and I
Well,
mean, TV and newspaper are now attacking the internet again.
yeah.
It's similar to when the news media attacked video games
Mm-hmm.
over violent content. It it's more of a scapegoat than
Actually,
a fully realized topic.
I think that's a little unequal, to be honest. Because like for the video game thing, there's actually nothing to really found that.
Right. Yes. Of course.
In,
Of
in in
course.
in this case, there actually is something to found. Like YouTube definitely is doing something wrong for sure. So I feel like that's a little unequal, but I can agree with the other points though.
Yeah. Absolutely. It. I guess it isn't exactly the same, but it's similar in tactic.
Yeah,
Is what
basically
I'd say.
going after the point is it's going after the new form and trying. It seems to be a war between different media places, essentially.
Yeah. And here's the thing: the all of those platforms came out the other side stronger and better because of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to see YouTube kind of get that way. So in a weird way, this might actually be something YouTube needed
Mm-hmm.
to kind of improve itself.
I
Because
can agree with that.
let's face it, there's not competition around it to actually make it kind of get on its feet and do
Yeah,
something.
what do we got? Vimeo?
Not even Vimeo. Vimeo is basically like an Vimeo is like an art platform more or less. It's not
Yeah,
even like a full blown competitor to YouTube. There's
yeah,
some small ones, but like when I say small, I mean like less than a percentage of the market share.
yeah. Like it is essentially YouTube's a little bit of a monopoly, if you will. So it's kind of good that something else from the outside can kind of make it shake up, because it kind of needs to.
Yeah, in a weird way, yes.
But yeah, man, that's all I really had to say about it.
And that's all I had to say about that.
Life is like a box of chocolates.
Life is like a loot crate. You open it and there's all kinds of good stuff in there. Sometimes it's stuff you don't watch, but sometimes you get an Overwatch sticker and you're really happy.
Oh, what times we have. Well,
Absolutely.
we lost the southern United States in their support.
What?
Well, I mean that I don't think the accents.
Does the South of the United States hate Forrest Gump? I thought
Uh,
everyone loved
I thought
Forrest
it was
Gump.
because we did the accents and they were kind of shitty.
See, I don't know a person alive who hates Forrest Gump.
Okay, guy. Well, this was a blank space, and I don't know what we just filled it in with.
We filled in it with something.
Something.